Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, helping you to find jargon-free information before choosing a professional to help solve your problems and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And during this segment of the show, ladies and gentlemen, I have former Superior Court Judge Marquis Jones of Counsel at the Weinberger Divorce and Family Law Group, and he's calling in all the way from his office in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Now, Marquis will be talking to you today about a very interesting topic. You see, he's taken the time out of his very busy schedule to come and talk to us about understanding fairness in family court. So, if you are one of the many individuals in the Mount Laurel, New Jersey area, and you're out there listening in, seeking jargon-free information to address your divorce-related issues, it might be a good idea for you just to take a break. Log out of Facebook, stop the Twittering and Instagramming or anything else you happen to be doing which may cause a distraction. And you may even want to pick up a notepad and pen and get ready to take some copious notes as we listen in to what Marquis has to share with us today. So with that said, let's not keep him waiting a moment longer. Welcome to the show, Marquis.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate so much the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
You are so welcome, sir. Before we kick off with my first question, let's just make one thing absolutely clear then, Marquis, that anything you share with us today is by no means any form of legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of disseminating information. Now, would you just spend a moment just to expand on that in your own words so that the listeners are absolutely clear on what we're doing today?
Sure. Well, first of all, one of the most important things to even understand about that is before you can even receive legal advice, it is critical that anyone offering that, one, has a relationship with you, and two, they understand what your particular issues may be as you sat down and discussed them with your attorney. So that's the first vital point about that. So it doesn't create any type of attorney-client relationship in the context of just talking about general information.
Fantastic. Thank you for making that emphatically clear then, Marquis. So please go ahead and share with us a little bit about Weinberger Divorce and Family Law Group and the people who you serve and the kinds of situations that they find themselves in when they initially reach out to you for your help.
Well, we are really a team of trusted New Jersey divorce and family law lawyers. Look, we're dedicated really to the sole purpose of securing our clients' future. We understand that divorce and family law matters. They're very difficult. They're very complex. They leave people feeling vulnerable, exposed at a time when they need protection, clarity, and they need peace of mind. They need to know your children are going to be safeguarded, your assets are going to be protected, your future is going to be secure. And our legal mastery of this area of law and do-right attitude provides the highest level of service, protection, and peace of mind that's needed to achieve our clients' outcomes. We work very hard at that. They deserve a bright future. They deserve security in the context and stability of, very, very difficult, complex child custody issues, domestic violence issues, divorce issues. And so that's all we do. We don't do anything else but family law. And we have, quite frankly, and very proud of this, 10 certified matrimonial attorneys here at Weinberger Divorce and Family Law Group. And that's a distinction that is not many attorneys can brag about.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that with us then, Marquis. So we're talking about understanding fairness within the family court system. Now, for those individuals who are listening right now, then, Marquis, what are some of the advantages? And I understand you could possibly speak for hours on this, but what are one or two of the advantages of actually understanding what's going on in the family court system?
Well, I think, what made me want to broach this topic is, I'm sure you realize, I think there are probably about 1 million judge shows out there now. And, people have a tendency to look at these and come into court on very complex and sensitive issues and think that maybe that's kind of the way it's going to proceed. And when it doesn't happen that way, they automatically kind of go to a place where the judge is being unfair. And I can tell you, in the context of my time on the bench, you would often run into that attitude. And I think it's critical with the type of issues that people face in the context of family law, that they really understand what this system is about and what they can expect and what they can anticipate to help them prepare better for it and to think about how they're going to present extremely sensitive and complex issues to the court in order to receive the outcomes that they're desiring when they do appear in court.
Right, so let me just ask you then, in addition to that, what's one of the biggest myths out there when it comes to how things run within the family court system?
I think probably one of the biggest myths that are out there is that, judges that are hearing your case somehow are going to have this decision-making process that includes character, that includes, designating one person bad and the other person good, and designating one person as a winner and the other person as a loser. I can tell you, often there are no winners in the type of things that family court judges have to deal with.
Yeah, because like going back to what you were saying, there's lots of TV programs out there and people watch them and have this general perception of what is right and what is wrong, but when they actually turn up in court, it's something completely different. So with that said then, Marquis, what do you feel is one of the actual biggest misconceptions surrounding your industry, the legal industry as a whole? What would you like to share with us on that point?
Well, the one thing I really would like to share is, one, that attorneys don't care, and that attorneys are just there to make the money and to kind of grind you through this system, and that they're not really invested in your case. I mean, I can tell you that on both sides of the fence, when I was a judge and even as an attorney now, I'm thinking about your case in the middle of the night when you're long asleep, and we do care. They do care. But unfortunately, if your perception is off about what this system is really about, then you can honestly come to a conclusion that not only the judge doesn't care, but the attorney doesn't care, and that you can't get any type of fair relief. And then that leads you to make decisions to do things on your own in a way that end up having the exact opposite effect of what you desired.
So where does this perception that attorneys don't care come from then, Marquis?
Because at some point, the attorney understands this system, and the attorney understands that this judge is looking at this from an objective place that's dictated, in essence, by law and facts. And the definitions that we have for things as a regular layperson, it's not the definition that a judge is using, and it's not the approach that a judge is taking. I used to ask people, if you had to give a definition of what judging is in the context of the court, what would your definition be? And somehow most people think it's to make some type of moral consideration about what's happening in front of them, and it's not. That's not what it is. It's a process of following a procedure, of following precedent, of applying facts to law, and coming out with a decision that you feel is warranted based on that structure. Now, yes, there is a context of equity or fairness when you're trying to do that, but your overall goal is to really reach a just result based on the structure and based on facts, objective evidence, credible evidence, and things that are presented to you.
So, Marquis, as a family law attorney, you must see a wide array of cases that come across your table, and respectively, you must see, people are apprehensive. Just the word family court in of itself conjures some kind of fear in the normal everyday Joe Bloggs out there. So what are some of the most common fears that you come across on a regular basis while you're out there helping your clients on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think, probably, depending on the type of case, of course, in a divorce context, it might be the fear that, I'm going to be left with nothing. Right. And that I'm going to become homeless and I'm not going to have a way to care for myself in the future. I'm going to end up on welfare or some other, government assistance program after I've invested a significant amount of time with another person. And I thought we were building something together. In a child custody case, it's the loss of that child. Mm-hmm. In the domestic violence case, it can be the loss of your life. These are very weighty things that our clients deal with in, the context of their lives. And again, one can easily imagine, what it's like to all of a sudden, after 30 years, just have no idea what's going to happen in your future. Mm-hmm. That's a scary thought. It's a scary thought.
Yeah, and they're valid fears, are they not?
They're absolutely valid fears. Most of them are valid fears.
Okay.
Which is very important, though, because you have to kind of make this distinction.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. You have to kind of understand the system and, what it's actually designed to do and what you need to present. Because sometimes if you take a step back, which is often hard to do because of the emotions that are involved in what I do, and take an objective look at this, because that's what a judge is going to do. A judge is going to take a somewhat objective look at facts and evidence that are presented to establish a particular position. That's it. They're not there, to bring down the wrath of morality on any given person that appears before them.
Right. Hence the topic, fairness in family court. So let's just stick with this topic of fear. What can one do to actually get past those fears that you mentioned, those ones that you come across on a regular basis? If someone's listening out there and they actually, they have those thoughts swimming around in their mind, I'm going to be left alone, I may not have any money, what about the kids? What can one actually do to get past those fears, Marquis?
And that's where we come in. The first thing is information. Right? Accurate information. I've had, so many people come in and they're very nervous, they're very scared, they're very emotional, they don't understand what's going to happen. And I sit down and present to them, based on the information that they give me, look, consistent with the law, which is what a judge is going to do, based on precedent and cases that have been decided before, this is likely what is going to happen. And once they start to get that information, that accurate information, and you can sit down and strategize and deal with various set of circumstances, then it begins to allay some of those fears, because they can then begin to see that, it's probably not as bad as I initially thought.
Right. So in terms of perceived obstacles that you come across on a regular basis, which may be preventing people who actually need the help of somebody like yourself, a family law attorney, and even a former superior judge or court judge with such valid experience. What are some of the perceived obstacles you see that may be preventing them from even reaching out to somebody like yourself?
Well, I hate to say that one of the obstacles might simply be the friends and the people that they're speaking with.
Oh boy, that's a big one.
Yes.
Oh dear.
I guess the old term, I don't want to say jailhouse lawyers, because there's so many bar lawyers and sidewalk lawyers, and this happened to me, and this is what you can expect. And most often than not, it's very inaccurate, because one of the most interesting things about this particular area of the law, I cannot sit here and tell you of two cases I have ever done that were exactly alike.
All right.
And that's significant. And that's understanding the structure, and that's understanding the procedure and how this goes. Because once you understand that, you really can't listen to these people. Because what their experience that they went through, yours may be radically different because your facts, your life, everyone's life is unique in a way. There's some general things that come up, sure, but you really have to dig deeper than that. And you do. And once you start to go through that, they begin to get a greater level of understanding. And then they can see, okay, maybe there's some things I can do. Maybe I should take next steps. Maybe I should, go through the process or go through the procedure, and I may find myself having gotten relief, or to the extent that there was a goal that I had, that it may be possible now.
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is former Superior Court Judge and Attorney Marquis Jones, and his topic is understanding fairness in family law. Now, with that in mind, Marquis, and for those individuals who are listening right now, what's one of the most common pitfalls or even mistakes that you'd like to highlight and expand on today that's going to be of value to them?
I think probably one of the most important ones is your mental state. You have to change the mindset in this area that I'm going to win and the other person is going to lose. You're going to be very frustrated by this. And then that takes us back to your perception that you've been treated unfairly, because your assumption was that there must be a winner and there must be a loser. And, some of that, again, is going back to how things are presented in this kind of fake form that you see on television. And I think what people miss is, look, if it's on television, there's an element of entertainment that they're trying to get out of this, right? In real life, this is not about entertainment. These are people's lives. And the issues and difficulties that they have within their lives, they're real, and they can have an impact that, I've seen it, stays with them for the rest of their life, because they didn't go back and stop that mental thought that, look, there must be a winner, there must be a loser, and therefore, if it doesn't happen the way that I perceive fairness to be, how I think it should happen, and you can't see that I'm the good person and they're the bad person, then I've been treated unfairly and I've lost. That's the absolute wrong attitude to bring to this particular area.
So, Marquis, so far we've more or less been speaking to the adults out there, the people who find themselves in this unfortunate position of facing divorce, contemplating divorce, going through divorce, or maybe even have gone through divorce. However, there is another party out there, people who I like to call the invisible voices, as in the children of divorce, who don't really have a voice. So what would you like to say to those divorcing couples who may find themselves right now in a position where they're at loggerheads? There's lots of conflict, and there may rightly be, every reason to feel that way. However, children are involved. They're in the middle. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, Marquis, is because I'm a child of divorce, and I went through a very volatile, violent, bloody divorce process with my parents, and I was only 8 and 9 years old, and that had a massive negative impact on my psyche, on my schoolwork, the jobs I took, the career path that I took, the kind of relationships I went into, and it took me a long time to work on that. And one of the good parts is this is inspiration for this show, to bring on people like yourself to speak with adults that find themselves in a similar situation to what my parents were, where they have kids stuck in the middle and they're playing the kid, like a ping pong game. Your father's this, your mother's that. So if there is somebody out there who's listening in right now, or next week, next year, 10 years from now, and there are children involved, what are some of the ramifications from your perspective, because you're very experienced in this field? What are some of the ramifications of them not coming to an amicable approach or an agreement for the good of their own children, regardless or irrespective of how they feel about each other?
So let me start, because I think it's also very important to point out. I mean, you mentioned divorce, but children are often in the middle of not only divorce, but individuals who haven't gotten or were never married.
Absolutely.
And child custody issues. Children are caught up in the middle of domestic violence cases. So it's almost always the case that if you have two adults that are in a contentious battle and they have children together, that child is caught up in the middle of it. And one of the things I always did, and I still do, is I share with my clients, and I shared with people or litigants who appear before me in court, the Children's Bill of Rights. Because they have to understand that your child is a separate being. And you really have to understand that your child loves both of you. And I would tell you something that was one of the most amazing things I've experienced as a judge. And I have spoken to countless children because sometimes you would have to interview them to find out what it is that they wanted to happen and what their wishes are. Because it's very scary for a child to think in their mind that there's some Wizard of Oz person with a black robe on that's deciding what's going to happen to them and what's going to happen. Are they going to be taken away from mommy or daddy? So the number one thing, and I'm telling you, this was hands down, the number one thing that children would always tell me when I gave them three wishes, and they could wish for anything, three wishes of what they wanted me to do. How could I help them? The number one wish always was, I just want mommy and daddy to stop fighting. Number one, consistently. Because what parents need to understand is that, particularly with young children, they take things much more literally than we as adults who have a greater capacity to engage in abstract thinking. That's not the way they approach things. They literally see themselves as one half of mommy and one half of daddy. So if you're calling mommy bad names, etc., that child is processing that as if one half of them is bad. And those things that they hear you saying to the other parent. It's critical. And it impacts them for the rest of their life in all of the areas you just mentioned. Every single one.
Killing me softly with his song.
There you go, right?
I'm telling you, man. Wow. You just hit the nail on the head. It's just so true. And, so if you are in that unfortunate position and children are involved, I can't add anything more to that. It's just so right, just so on the money that the children are the ones that really suffer. And that's exactly how I thought about my parents. I love my parents equally. And every time my mom shouted at me and says, go and stay with your dad, he's this and he's that. And my dad did the same thing. I felt equally bad, and it just ripped me apart. Absolutely. I carried the guilt of my parents' breakup on my little shoulders throughout my childhood and into my young adulthood.
And there's so many child development studies that support everything that I've just said. So it's well documented as to the impact of that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Marquis. So let's talk a little bit about you. Nobody wakes up one day and just decides, I'm going to be a family law attorney and then do everything what I can be to be a superior court judge. There's always a winding, meandering path that leads to where we find ourselves today. So with that said, just share a little bit about your backstory, Marquis. What was it that inspired you or led you to become the man you are today and in the position that you are today?
Well, I've always been one that's been more interested in giving than taking. I've served my country for 10.5 years in the Air Force.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, I tell you, it's one of the greatest times in my life. And I've done so much with regard to, public service type jobs. And what I was more interested in doing with a law degree was using that to educate people about what their rights were and what in the context of this system you could do to resolve your disputes in a way that was not so harmful to each side involved. And that did lead me to wanting to become a Superior Court judge, because you have such a unique opportunity to help people from that position. And you really do. And you have an opportunity to, because one of the most important things I found in a lot of cases is people want to be heard. You know, you can resolve so much if a person feels they've had a fair opportunity to be heard and that they have been treated fairly. And you do explain to them patiently, you know, this is what this system is, and this is what it can do for you if you allow it and you are participating in it. And you informing yourself. And I'm helping to give you that information and helping you to understand what this is and what it's not, and how we do go about in the context of the order of our lives. You know, quite frankly, without the court system, it would be absolute chaos worldwide. It's such a critical system in how we resolve our disputes, and that it's important that we understand it, so we understand on a real level that, you know what, perhaps I have been treated fairly, even though the outcome may not have been what I wanted or expected. So I just wanted to be in a position to be able to do that for people and to have them be informed about their rights. And it's the same now. You know, most often than not, people don't understand what their rights are in the context of the family law system. And so informing them of that and showing them how we can reach certain results that can be good for everyone involved. It's a pleasure to approach life from that perspective.
So, Marquis, let's talk about expectations, because you mentioned this several times. You know, people are quite often influenced by the media and what they see on TV in Hollywood, etc. But what would you say, and obviously this is not any form of legal advice or legal assistance, we said that right at the beginning, but what would you say would be a more appropriate kind of approach from a mental perspective for anybody going into a family court environment? I mean, from my perspective as a layman, I'm thinking, and based on what you shared, I think a better approach would be, okay, I'm going into this process, and yeah, the norm is it's winner and loser, but I'm going into this process where I'm prepared to give up something of what I want to at least get something that I need. And then the same for my partner as well. So we both give up something what we both want to meet each other in the middle, so that there's at least something that we both get from that. Is that somewhat of an appropriate approach to that? Well, what do you say?
It is, because you have to be honest and real about what's at stake. What are we really fighting about? What is it that I really want? What am I really talking about? And, you know, this comes up often in child custody disputes or visitation disputes or things of that nature, right? And I just have to tell you, because I guess the starkest example I can give is on one occasion when a person had been ordered not to be around their child because there was a substance abuse issue. And so for the protection of the child, it was ordered that the person, you know, not be around a child. And I received an application, you know, to kind of change that. And the only thing the person put in the application was that I found God. And I'm like, okay, I'm very happy about your new connection. I really am. But that's not helping us resolve any of what's really at stake here, right? And what's really at stake? The safety of this child is at stake. Your relationship with the other parent, and a level of trust that will allow you to go forward in a productive way and raise a healthy child, right? A relationship with two parents, sometimes constitutional rights. So as you can see, there are a myriad of things that were really at stake in the context of that. And one person's not bad and one person's not good. And we're really trying to resolve a lot of complex issues. And you have to begin to understand that and look at it from a different perspective. It's not just about you visiting the child.
So, Marquis, when you think about all of the cases that you've worked on, all the clients, all the people that you've helped to achieve the transformation that they were looking for when they initially came to you, when you reflect back on all of those cases, personally now, from a personal point of view, on a deep down level, what does that actually give you? How does that make you feel?
That's a very difficult question. And it's a really complicated question. So, of course, when I've helped people overcome addictions and have put families back together again, and you see the smiles and you see the love, it makes you feel that you're accomplishing a purpose in life. To see the smile of a child again when they're adopted after they've come out of a very abusive situation, and you see hope that's on people's faces that they will be able to go forward and form relationships and bonds that will be healthy and will allow them to see their full potential as a human being. It's probably one of the greatest feelings in the world. But the converse sometimes also happens, right? I don't win everything. I wish I did, and sometimes no matter how hard you work, the result, is not positive. And, you think about that there are cases that will stay with me forever, where you're constantly thinking, is there something else I could have done? Some other approach, was it something I missed? So it's a very complicated area, but no matter what, the opportunity to be trusted, for someone to trust you with the most important things in their lives, has a reward in and of itself.
So before we close out with our last question for today, then, Marquis, what's the most important thing that individuals who are listening in right now should consider when evaluating a family law attorney?
Experience. Experience teaches you so much in the context of these very, very complex relationships and what happens and things you've seen over a period of time, and how you grow and learn about human nature and how to come to things in a way that really results in a more amicable and fair result for people. And then having them see that it's fair, not necessarily in the context of what they were thinking coming in, but in a broader view of things, so that they're satisfied and they do manage to meet, their goals to the extent that their most important things and most important needs are met. Experience is critical. And also a degree of compassion. You have to have that, because people are trusting you sometimes with the most intimate details of their lives, and you have to be able to connect on some level with that and have empathy. And even though, it may be from the system, the structure, the law, the objective facts, the evidence is not going to, get them there, that compassion and empathy will allow you to work with them in a way that at the end of the day, they're still feeling okay about moving forward with their lives.
So, Marquis, finally, if somebody feels they want to know more about what we've been speaking about today, understanding fairness within the family court system, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you? And also, what will actually happen when they do? So just paint the picture so that they know there's absolutely no risk to reach out with you or to you and take the next step.
Well, it's going back to some of the things we're talking about. Look, My main thing is I want you to have the information that you need to make the best decision for your life. And consistent with that, all they have to do is call. They can call. Is it okay to give a number?
Absolutely, yes. The phone number, the web address, please go ahead.
Exactly. They can either call 856-441-2000. They can go to our website at www.wlg.com. They can make an appointment. We have free consultations. We will talk to you about your entire matter, your goals, how we can get there, the strategies to do so, and have you have the most and best information so you can make the most informed decision you can for your future and your life.
Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we are out of time. So once more, let me just remind you that we have been listening to former Superior Court Judge Marquis Jones, who is now practicing as an attorney within your area. So thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Marquis.
My pleasure, absolutely.
Thank you so much. You've certainly, without a doubt, demonstrated that you are a true educator and advocate for your client's success. So yeah, I just want to say thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
You are so welcome. But even more so, I'd like to say a huge thank you to you. Yes, our listener out there right now tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. We know that you're busy too, and for joining us on what I can only describe as a very insightful and informative discussion with one of the top family law attorneys in the Mount Laurel, New Jersey area today. Again, his name is Marquis Jones. Make sure you do check him out. Share his phone number. Give him a call. Visit his website. We'll have the contact details beneath the show. Whatever you do decide to do, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that after spending a little bit of time with Marquis today, that you are going to be in a great place to get started. So that's all for today, folks. Again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.